It's been 2 years since RTX has launched, so with the help of my friends MSI and Corsair, we are going to build the ultimate RTX gaming computer to see just how far RTX and DLSS has matured in the last 2 years. And this is obviously going to be in preparation for the next generation of stuff to come. It's only going to get better from here. Sponsored by Corsair and MSI. All right, so honestly, this video is made possible through our sponsors for this particular build, MSI and Corsair. So if you guys want to learn more about the products that we're using here and see what products they have that might be making sense for your build or your setup, check the description down below. You'll find links to these particular brands and the stuff that we used. But moving forward, we're going to talk about the parts we're going to use for this build. We have to build the system. I have systems we could have used, but let's be honest. Any opportunity to build a computer is a good opportunity because we like building computers around here, and I'm sure you do too, or you're considering it. In the concept of 2 years worth of maturity with RTX, the hardware itself is not going to really play a role in how far RTX has matured. Developers have learned how to more efficiently code for RTX, or DXR I should say. RTX is what Nvidia is calling their implementation of it in terms of hardware-wise, but DXR is actually the technology of real-time ray tracing. So what we're gonna see here as we prepare for the next generation of graphics cards is where we're kind of leaving off in terms of the first generational adoption of RTX/DXR and how far it's come, and you can obviously bet with newer graphics cards, it's only gonna be that much better. Brute force and efficiency turn into amazing performance. So here's the parts we're gonna be using for this build. For the chassis, I'm using the 570X Crystal. This is not the first time I built in this case. This is a challenging case to build in because it's tempered glass on all sides. And what that means is you can't hide much. Now on the build I did in the past, it was actually a black case with the tinted glass. This is a white case with tinted glass and black cables. So that means if I build it like garbage, it's gonna look like garbage. But I just love the way white cases look. This system is gonna probably also turn into my daughter's new build where she's gonna be doing custom water cooling with it in the future. So it's gonna have more than just this particular video's purpose. Because we obviously teamed up with our friends at MSI, we pulled out all the stops with the X570 Godlike. We are gonna be putting the brand new 3900 XT in here. Because we are talking DXR, which means that we're not going to be seeing the most outrageous frame rates. I mean, sure, we could go Intel. If you guys want to do Intel, the performance will be very, very similar if you're using the same graphics cards, obviously. But we just think the amount of horsepower you can get out of this system is going to be insane. I'll probably switch this CPU out prior to it being my daughter's build, but anyway, I digress. Moving on, for our graphics card, I already said we're using the 2080 Ti Gaming X Trio. From MSI, this is their massive 3-fan custom PCB, high power limit, RGB, you name it, it's got it. Overkill graphics card because why not? RTX, beautiful games. We should just throw a big block at it, and that's what this is. We've got Corsair's MP600 PCIe Gen 4 M.2 SSD. So that's one of the reasons why we went with AMD on this particular build instead of Intel, is we could take advantage of these particular SSD speeds. And then for a, geez, it seems a little overkill to call it a junk drive, but for a junk drive, we're using an 860 EVO. This is also a 1 terabyte SSD. I don't think my daughter is gonna fill the computer very fast with games, so I wanted to have something here so she doesn't dump everything on the 1 terabyte. I may not even leave this in her system, I haven't decided yet, but regardless, we're using it in this iteration of the build because ultimate. For RAM, we do have, this is the last generation, but it is Corsair's Vengeance RGB RAM in white because it's a white chassis. I think it would be good to add some white parts in there to get some good contrast. Obviously, Corsair supplied this. And if we look down here at the bottom, we are using a Corsair H150i Pro 360 millimeter all-in-one water cooler that does have RGB. We are gonna be switching those fans out to their Light Loop 120s over here, obviously, for RGB. Like you literally cannot spell ultimate without RGB. And then powering it is a power supply we already had on hand, the RM1000X. We could have requested some power supplies be sent to us. Didn't think that was gonna be fair though, considering there's such a shortage of power supplies right now. We'll use what we already have in stock. No reason to bring something and then have to waste it by having it sit on a shelf when literally right now getting your hands on power supplies is difficult. The build isn't what today's video is about. It's about the performance, but we gotta build it first. So we'll let Phil handle that part. Well, here she is in all her goodness. We did make one change to it though. I took out the 3900 XT and put in the 3800 XT because we could get better single core clock speeds, which is obviously gonna be better for gaming. But we figured on such an ultimate high-end RTX based build, the best title to showcase first, Minecraft. I know that this is, some people are gonna be like, Minecraft, who cares about Minecraft? But if you take a look at what the vanilla install looks like of Minecraft and you compare it to what just global illumination and real-time ray tracing does, it's pretty insane on what you can get out of it. Whoa, look at the God rays through the water. Yeah, and the FPS is actually doing really well. Like, I don't know if this has been optimized more, but we're getting 73 FPS right now. I know that may not seem impressive, but if you still investigate and do some research on what is actually happening with real-time ray tracing in terms of shadows and light, it's impressive. But what's more impressive is the fact that if you compare this to what Minecraft looks like, it's such a big improvement. And if you compare what the FPS and performance was like on third-party shader packs, you'll realize how good this is actually doing. All of this light over here is created by bouncing light off that. And the amount of light shading over here, or lighting over here, is based on the texture and all the math that says how much light should be bouncing off of that and how much is going to be absorbed over here too, because these are darker textures. It's like the search for the Holy Grail. It's turning red because it's setting. Look at this. Look at the reflection on the water, obviously. Wow. Okay.
Wow, look at that. There's your sunset. Oh, we missed golden hour.
You mean golden 3 seconds? That is so cool looking. So as soon as I break out this block right here, watch what happens over here. That is so cool. Now, anyone that plays the basic Minecraft will know, like, you set a torch and you go, I know, maybe 10 blocks forward and all the light is gone from that, but we still have some. Think of what this is gonna do to the efficiency of your torch resources. You're not gonna have to set them every 5 blocks because you lose all the light from it. All right, Minecraft, obviously fun for, I think, all ages. Anyone who likes to build Legos would probably enjoy Minecraft, but we wanna see how far things have actually come in terms of improvement. Now, RTX, when it first came out, was a massive performance hit. In fact, one of the most common arguments was, why would anyone enable RTX to cut their FPS in half? Now, one of the other accompanying technologies that came out with RTX was DLSS, or Deep Learning Supersampling. It was designed to replace MSAA, SMAA, and all that stuff, where machine learning over time would learn the best way to handle all of the anti-aliasing. I'm not gonna get into any depth conversation right now what DLSS is. There's tons of content out there, but I can tell you that we've moved on now to DLSS 2.0. Because of the last 2 years of machine learning, they've been able to really improve the way that it works. One of the things that we're gonna start off here with is Battlefield 5. And we're gonna take a look at the exact same scene in the campaign as we first tested it with when it came out, and then we are gonna take a look at multiplayer, because what we learned is that multiplayer is all about keeping the FPS high and the response high. But single player was all about the beauty. There's a lot more difficulty running single player than there is in multiplayer, so we gotta test both of those. All right, so in terms of settings, we're starting at 1080 because 1080, when we first did this with a 2080 Ti 2 years ago, we're talking September, not quite September yet, but September of 2018, we could barely get 60 FPS with HDR, or not HDR, DXR on, with like turning it down to like medium. Oh wow, this is laggy. That's certain. 34 FPS, 35. Now, since then, they've actually launched DLSS for this title as well, but we're not gonna be using DLSS because we're running a 2080 Ti. It's not even available to us because they reserve DLSS in Battlefield 5 specifically for the lower end graphics cards. In fact, Nvidia has a whole article talking about with high end graphics cards like a 2080 Ti, brute forcing it is giving you better results than allowing DLSS. You'll actually lose performance if you tried to enable it. We used to be able to turn that on. In fact, we did a video showing how you could turn that on. They've now graded that out. If you have X hardware or better, it doesn't turn on. But as you can see, we have DX12 enabled because that's required. DXR is enabled, and we have it currently set to Ultra. So this is the worst it can get in terms of 1080p performance. So let's just go ahead and see how far we've come from that. And then HDR, I didn't even realize there was an HDR panel. And HDR is gonna take away some of our performance too. So let's turn off HDR. So we're currently getting 100 FPS. It's extremely smooth though, there's no stutters. And yes, motion blur is on, because I think it was on in our last test. So as you can see, obviously the Gaming X Trio card is boosting up pretty high, and the temperatures are staying very reasonable when gaming. In fact, some water-cooled cards have a hard time holding 62C. So you can see the giant triple slot cooler is clearly doing its job. Look at the beautiful fire. Whoa, look at that.
Now look at the
Look at the reflections on the gun. Now remember, this is ultra. So let's switch this real quick to, I don't know, medium. So we gain 5 FPS by going to medium. One thing I do want to point out too is that because we're running a 3800X, that single core performance is maxing out at 4.7. We've actually lost a little bit of FPS if we had gone with an Intel system around 5 gigs. So we are getting significantly higher FPS with a CPU that's more multi-threaded enhanced, or biased I should say, than single core performance. And we're still getting this level of improvement. So let me put this back to Ultra. So yeah, it's about almost 10 FPS, about 10 FPS difference between Ultra and Medium. One thing that was completely impossible to do when RTX first came out was 1440p with everything maxed out. Let's go ahead and try 1440p right now. And as you can see right now, we're sitting at 74 FPS, 72, 73. Don't forget, we are fully maxed on the settings. I like to turn the mouse like this a lot because I'm looking for stutters and freeze frames or pauses. We dropped down to 66 for a second there, especially when we get near the water. Dude, it's so pretty. I forgot how beautiful this game is. Dude, this is so playable. I mean, we're sitting in between the 70s and the 80s. Oh. Okay, so that was clearly a huge improvement. What we're gonna do now though is we are gonna go into multiplayer. All right, so here we are. We're actually started with 1440p. As you can see, sitting around the 80s, it's actually not that much of an improvement, as much as I thought it was gonna be. I mean, 90 FPS in 1440 with DXR on and fully maxed out. This was not capable 2 years ago. Now, for those people that are obviously interested in full on, I want the most amount of FPS possible, I don't care about the prettiness, then you're not gonna enable, hey you. Oh, you're not gonna enable, I didn't even hit him. You're not gonna enable something like DXR. This is for the people that want to see all of the beauty that's put into these maps. And Battlefield, the entire series of Battlefield, not even just 5, has always been known, DICE has been known for their incredible level design. It's one of those things that's always made me a fan of Battlefield, specifically because of how good it all looks. All right, what about 1080p?
I was gonna say, I think the first time their art department really wowed me was Battlefield 3's Caspian.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because the sky map and just everything just looks so good.
All right, let's spawn on him. Yeah, it looks so much better in 1440. We're also not in a native 1080p panel, so that matters.
120 FPS with a ultra ray tracing though is not bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna hide under this bridge.
You're literally trolling.
Well, I want to go to the menu real quick and not die. So what I want to do here is, with the game running, I want to now switch DXR down to low. Look at that, 30 FPS difference, and it's still on. All right, so Battlefield clearly improved enough for us to run 1440 with Ultra DXR if we're okay with 85 FPS. Now what happens when you run a modern type of a game, not Minecraft, but a modern game like this that has graphical intensity on top of all those technologies, and you smush them all together? Well, you get this. So this is the game Control. If you haven't heard of this game, I don't think it got a lot of marketing attention, to be honest, but this is one of the first titles to actually use all of the RTX features and give you control over them. That's why they call it Control. So if you go into the menu system here, you can see obviously you get all your normal quality texture type settings. DLSS is something you can turn on right here. We'll talk about that more in a sec, but if you go down here to ray tracing, you can set the ray tracing preset, but you can also see you can turn on or off reflections, transparent reflections, so that's stuff like glass, traced indirect diffuse lighting, so that'd be like bounce lighting or ambient occlusion, ray traced contact shadows, like this. You can see the shadow right here is much crisper than as you move away. Because the farther the thing is from the object that the shadow is being casted on, the less crisp it is, because the light is wrapping around that object and kind of illuminating some of that shadow around it. So we've got it set on max right now. It's on high, it's on 1080p. This is also a DLSS title. And this is the only title so far that we've personally tested that will allow you to go in here and set the render resolution. So what's happening here with DLSS is it will take the resolution, consider this the base resolution, that's what it will render the game in, and then it will use deep learning to upscale it to the resolution you're gonna play at. So we have it set to 720p, being upscaled to 1080 using DLSS. There are some things too that still have a little bit of improvement that you need to have, in my opinion, take place in this game. What it's doing here is it's creating the reflection on those textures, but the farther away we get from it, the more it's not able to really calculate what's happening there, so it kind of looks a little blotchy. But these are the kinds of things that you'll see improve with next generation. So we're gonna go here where there's a little bit of battling happening. You're gonna see all of those features we just showed you in effect. You're gonna see glass, you're gonna see shadows, you're gonna see debris, you're gonna see all of it. I also don't play this game very much. This is a game that Phil is super into. So don't, well, you're gonna judge me anyway, so who cares? Nice.
It's also a bum.
Okay. Well, that works.
I feel like the devs were like, how many particle effects do you want? Yes.
All of them. Look at this.
So good.
Wait, look at the FPS though. We're staying in the 90s when I got this game. It's like 60 at the most. Now, yes, we're in 1080p. We are gonna check out 1440 here in a second, but this is a title that, like I just showed you, is using all of the technologies at the same time. To 1440. That's still not awful. Look at this. We're still almost 100 FPS, 90, or almost 90, 80, 82. So this is a game that I would be perfectly fine playing with this kind of FPS because this is a story game. Dude, you see the object like floating around there? Dude, I'm a nerd for this stuff, and it makes me a little bit sad that some people can't appreciate it.
That looked great with the fire and the lighting.
Yeah, I get it though. I get why some people were just like, I just want all my FPS, I don't want any of that other crap. That's fine. So there you go, a video I've been wanting to do for a while now, kind of showing how far we've come in terms of just the last 2 years in RTX. I don't want to say implementation as much as I want to say optimization, because that's exactly what's been happening. Developers have been learning how to use it, how to best make it efficient, so that you're able to get a lot more of the performance back that you initially would have lost at the beginning of this generation of graphics cards when you first turned it on. Now, one thing I urge you to do, because the most common comment you would see in any RTX discussion back in 2018 especially, is no one cares about RTX, that's a gimmick, no one cares, the performance loss is not worth it, blah, blah, blah. And those are the exact same discussions that you would see take place back in 2000 when rasterization was really becoming a thing. And it's no one, you could find copy word for word arguments of why rasterization's a fad, why no one's gonna care, why it's gonna go away. That became over the last 20 years the way you played games. And this is the way we're gonna be playing games moving forward. And it's one of those things now, it's kind of funny because like I said, the original builds we did back in 2018 showing RTX features was why are you bothering with RTX? Now if you do a build that doesn't include RTX, you start getting comments of like, why didn't you put RTX in it? You should have RTX. So you can see how quickly the Hive mindset starts to change, and as well as the improvements. You can see how quickly the improvements come. Honestly, the title I'm looking most forward to playing with full RTX again is Minecraft. I know that sounds...
I thought you were gonna say Cyberpunk, honestly, but no, Minecraft.
It's gotta launch first.
Yeah.
But Minecraft, because I could play it with my daughter, play it with some other family members, some cousins that play Minecraft, and the fact that she'll have a computer that can do it with RTX, and so can mine, without getting stupid stuttery frame rates, is gonna make it that much more exciting, because I can creative build with her, and while she's building, I just be like, look at this, boop, with a torch, she'll be like, look at the lights, and she'll be like, I don't care, because it's the only way she knows games now. My daughter's only experienced this. She doesn't know what it was like before that. Actually, she does. She plays Minecraft now. It's gonna blow her mind. Or she's just gonna be like, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, huge thank you once again to MSI and Corsair for sponsoring today's video. Links to the products that we used in this build for the ultimate RTX build in 2020 are down in the description below, so you guys can go and check that out and go and check out their full range of products that they have. And without them, this video would not have been possible. So thanks for watching, guys, and as always, we'll see you in the next one. I forgot what I was gonna say. Well, you know, it's been 2 years since, what's it called? RTX. That's You know, I want to do a video about how far we've come in the last 2 years regarding All right, so you know how we do this build? Not funny. No funny. Blood.